Teddy was born in Vienna, not in Jerusalem, but you could well say Jerusalem was reborn with Teddy. Teddy Kolek, that is. Quite a claim that for a city with an illustrious 3,000-year history, a city which commands such lofty hopes, such deep-felt prayers, such ardent devotion. But it's really not an exaggerated tribute to the man who died a week ago at the age of 95 after having served as Jerusalem's mayor for almost 3 full and very key decades in the city's modern history. Teddy Kolek, shaping that history. There are many monuments in Jerusalem, wrote one admirer, but Teddy Kolek was the most impressive of them all. A figure on the global stage. Even when few people in the world knew the identity of Israel's prime minister, a great many knew who Jerusalem's mayor was. Because of his involvement in the city's physical development, Teddy was dubbed the greatest builder since King Herod. Within a single generation, he'd indeed changed the face of the city, transforming it from a sleepy backwater into a modern metropolis, but still with its own very special character, and for all its formidable problems. Kolek's tenure as mayor is a relatively brief chapter in the history of the famous city, but it involved an unprecedented building momentum, tripling in size and doubling its population. In point of fact, however, when the late Yitzhak Rabin coined that legend and hailed Herod II, the normally most smiling and most composed Teddy was actually quite miffed by the comparison. Herod, he declared, built mainly grandiose structures and buildings for military purposes. External grandeur is not what's important, it's building up people, establishing bridges of understanding. And that he set out to do between the different communities who live in Jerusalem and hold the city dear, Israelis and Arabs, Jews, Muslims and Christians. It was almost accidental that he had found himself in a position to try to enhance the city's grandeur through his own grand scheme of life. It was less than 2 years before the 1967 Six-Day War that he had reluctantly acceded to the wish of Israel's founding father, David Ben-Gurion, whom Teddy always served loyally, that he run for mayor. He later admitted that though he won that election, he still feared he would find Israeli Jerusalem, half the divided city, too small beer for a man looking to broad horizons. But when the city's eastern parts, taken by Israel, and were annexed by the Israeli government, it was Kolek who came to the fore, boldly preparing to transform himself by pledging to restore Jerusalem's historic grandeur as a united city, with the divisions eradicated. I saw it, he declared, as an historic occasion to take care of the city. And it was quickly clear to me that to show better care for it than anyone else has ever done would be a life's task. Jerusalem, he went on to explain, is the one essential element in Jewish history. A body may live without an arm or a leg, but not without a heart. And Jerusalem, he said, is the heart and soul of the Jewish people. Noble aspirations, but would they work? Could they work given the inherent contradictions in the Jerusalem situation? After that watershed 1967 war, Teddy Kolek, like his mentor Ben-Gurion, always believed that Israel should, in return for peace, give up all the areas that had come within its aegis, the Sinai, Gaza, the entire West Bank, the Golan Heights, but always insist on remaining and retaining Jerusalem as a whole. On the other hand, he was no soft lefty. It soon became clear that within Jerusalem his policies, those broad building decisions, were based on his Zionist worldview, a belief that he needed to create physical and demographic facts on the ground so as to ensure, he believed, that Jerusalem could thus remain, in practice, the eternal capital of Israel and of Jews everywhere. The number of Jews within Jerusalem duly doubled in the quarter century after 1967, from 200 to 400,000. Arab numbers rose too, but Kolek ensured a 2-to-1 population ratio remained. As overlord of the city, he had a unique approach. The author Tom Segev, who worked with Kolek for a while, recalls how within hours of the military conquest of East Jerusalem in 1967, the mayor was already demanding of the military commander milk for Arab children. Soon he became the living symbol of a desire for a united, a unified city, and that led many ultranationalist Jews to regard him as too pro-Arab. It wasn't that. He was simply pragmatic. Candidly, Kolek would admit, I'd have wished that there were no Arabs in the city, but they are here and we need to serve them. Too much time has been poured over too little space, says the city's poet. Jerusalem wears too many hats of religion, Jewish hats, Christian hats, Muslim hats, so it's difficult to get at the town brain, he says. as Kolek was to discover. Building successfully in Jerusalem, building in the broader sense, that is not just about getting under the hats of religion, of politics, of nationalism. To understand the city's brain, it's about getting to Jerusalem's soul, a city so unique in a sense that it's almost as if Jerusalem's heart and soul can belong exclusively to no one, and even to those who love it so much, but only to itself. Kolek built for Jerusalem's overall grandeur, but his focus was still very much on the centrality of Jerusalem for Jews. That came to mean that for all his enlightened approach, it was not sufficiently balanced by a commitment to guarantee true equality for the city's Arab residents. And sadly, almost inevitably, after Kolek was finally voted out a decade and a half ago, his deeply felt notions about the need to create an open and tolerant city fast went by the board. His once friend and deputy mayor, Meron Benvenisti, who had tried in vain to push Kolek to accord much greater equality to the Arabs' rights, Teddy came to the city as a great healer. He knew, says Benvenisti, that what Jerusalem needed was solace, not an angry prophet. But his overall worldview did not allow him to recognize that the reality of life in the city was akin to a tribal war, and that perhaps there is simply no equitable solution for the rival claims to the city's heart. "You are a great man," I once heard a Palestinian trader tell Kolek in the souk within the walled old city. "You are a truly great leader of Jerusalem." "Thank you," replied the mayor, adding in a rare moment of sadness, "It hasn't done you much good to believe that, and your saying it hasn't done me much good either." Teddy had been wont to say that it would take over 100 years for Jerusalem to become truly united. But as he squared up to 40 years of attempted unification, that long-term belief seemed to falter, and he is said to have supported in his late years the idea, which Ehud Barak advanced back at Camp David 6 years ago, that Jerusalem be kept united, but only by allowing each of the two peoples, Israelis and Palestinians, to govern their own affairs within one undivided city. And when Kolek himself on his 90th birthday was asked whether he had any regrets about anything at all that he had not done in Jerusalem, he observed quietly that "I haven't learnt Arabic properly, because then I would perhaps have understood better what the Arabs really wanted, and then maybe have found a better way to accommodate that with our wishes." During the more than 3 millennia of its known history, Jerusalem has been conquered umpteen times. Often it has been ravaged by its occupiers. Under Israel, under Kolek, the city was built in amazing fashion and designed to create it as a unified whole. But the building, however well-intentioned, was unilateral, and that meant the entrenching of divisions, the creation of new walls, real and in the hearts. The city which lays claim to be the city of peace is as much today about being a city of strife. Now, no one can take away the enormity of Teddy Kolek's achievements in many spheres, and he is duly most fondly remembered. But finally, sadly, with Jerusalem accepted only by Israel as its own capital, and though open to all, a city exclusively under Jewish and Israeli control, means that the Kolek determination to forge a grand and united Jerusalem must in the end be acknowledged as a quest more illusory than real.